Turn it up a little bit. Forgot loud. Yo.
Yeah, I've got a lot of work to do. Thought I'd get it all laid out with the brakes and everything before I throw the fronts on my car today. But yeah, I've got a lot to do. So today I'm going to be throwing these brakes on the front, just the fronts for now, and yeah, this shit is crazy. I got a lot. And I feel like this isn't even it. I feel like I have more like somewhere else, but maybe it's just because I've bought so much shit over a long period of time. But yeah, this is what I've got here. So I've got the brake calipers, I've got the 06 to 09 tail lights, the brake pads, the rear knuckle hub bearings, the rear shoes, brake shoes so I can keep my parking brake. I've got ball joints for the front. Spacers are 25 mil. I'm rebuilding that hub with those Megan Racing bushings, the stainless steel lines, the brackets for the front, coil radiator with the Mishimoto Slim profile fans, the Z1 full hose kit, so every hose that's on the car is here. New thermostat. This is a differential out of a G37 that I'm gonna put a high capacity Z1 fin differential cover on it. I actually cut off this stub right here so I could fit the 350Z, 350Z, 370Z flange here. So that way I can connect the 350Z drive shaft, and I'm gonna have this welded, and got the motor down exhaust system and this carbon fiber hood. It's actually a little bit cheaper than I thought it was. I thought it was like a, it's Carbon Creation, so it's not the best brand out there, but it's fine for me. But yeah, this is pretty much everything. I've got a lot of stuff to do, so stay tuned to the channel, and I'm gonna get to this install of the brakes right now. Alright, so what I have here is I have my Akebono caliper, and I've got the brackets and instructions and stuff. But so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to explain this off the car, so to make it a little bit easier for you guys, and then I'm going to explain it while it's on the car as well. So don't worry, I'm gonna put everything on the car and explain the process of putting it on the car too. But I'm gonna, just for ease of understanding, I'm gonna do it here too. So basically, the way these brackets go on is they bolt on like this, okay? And then you have this piece that goes here. So the reason why this is cut out here is because when the caliper is mounted on the car, that part has to line up. So enable for this hole to be lined up with this one, there has to be a notch cut out here. So that's the reason why that one's here. So then the caliper goes on like this, but first when you're on the car, you're gonna have to put the rotor on first. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna bolt all this up, and I mean, of course, you're gonna use the washers and stuff too. And in the instructions, it says that I'm supposed to have 8 lock washers and then 4 flat washers. But for some reason, let's see, what does it say exactly? It says I'm supposed to have 8 lock washers and then 4 flat washers, which I don't understand. None of these are lock washers. So it looks like I'm just gonna be using washers for now. And which, I mean, there's no lock washers on the car originally, so there's no reason why I should have to use lock washers. I'm probably gonna end up using a little bit of like blue Loctite or something like that. But, so this is pretty much how it goes on the car. This is the driver's side, and this little like spacer here with the notch cut out goes towards the top of the knuckle. So that's pretty much how this goes together. But there's also an issue here where this part of the caliper comes into contact with this dust shield. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to mark right here roughly. I'm not gonna put this one on my car, so I'm gonna erase this marking afterwards. But basically, you're gonna have to cut from about here down. So kind of like that, just to get this piece out of the way because of the caliper here coming into contact with this, and if you leave it like that, then it's going to be pushed against the rotor. So when you actually mount the rotor on here, you're going to have noise if you don't cut this off. Now, Concept Z Performance says to cut this dust shield right here and then cut along right here. So they say to cut it right here and then cut right here. I don't see a reason in doing that. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a flat disc and cut this part off here, or maybe some tin snips. I'll see what I have. I think I destroyed my flat disc that I have here, so I might be using a pair of tin snips. But that's the only part that I can see that you have to cut off. I don't see a reason why I should have to cut any more than that. So I've got this side pretty much back together. I'll show you that in a second. But what I wanted to show you is I actually have a comparison here. So these are the 03 to 05s. These are the 06 to 09s. And these are off the G37 and 370Z. So these 03 to 05s. This is just a single piston caliper. And they're approximately 11.6 inch by 1 inch rotor itself, and then with a single piston. These are dual pistons. You can actually see them in there. There's two. And these are the 06 to 09s. These are a lot better than these, I know from experience, and these are comparable to Brembo brakes. These have a 12.6 inch by, or approximately 12.6 by 1.10, and they're dual piston. So these are pretty good. And then you have like the Akebonos that come on the 370Z and the G37 Sport package. And these are 14 inches by 1.6 by 1.26 inches. And these rotors have, these calipers have 4 pistons. So I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of like what these looked like and the size difference. I mean, I guess I could line this up a little bit better. But yeah, that's pretty much it. These are massive compared to these brakes over here, so I'm gonna feel a big difference in braking power. Alright, so this is what it's looking like so far. I wanted to get this side together and then I'll show you guys the process on the other side. I really wanted to take my time and get everything together, but this is what the caliper looks like on here. I've got a spacer on. This is how I bolted up the brake line, and I'll try to show you guys. What I'm going to try to do is I'll probably try to mount the GoPro over here somewhere, and then that way you guys can see everything from the back as well as seeing from the front. So this line right here, come on, damn, it's hard to pull this, but this line runs directly behind right here. See if you can see my hand here, and then bolts to the back of the calipers. So I'll try to get some video back there with the GoPro and show you guys exactly how I got this together. But the line is already bolted up over here. I didn't bleed anything yet, but I do need to bleed it still. So yeah, this side is done. It looks pretty sick, and it stands out really nice against the color of my car. And this is the one that's a little bit lighter, but the other one is a little bit darker. You're not really going to be able to tell from the front to the rear, but this one's probably going to look really cool too. So the reason why I did that side first is because this side has a little bit more light, especially from the picture taking area over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wheel off and then show you guys the process of how to put this on here. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start removing this caliper, and by doing that I'm going to remove this 12mm here and that 12mm right back there, and that'll free up this brake line on this side, and then I can get to unbolting the caliper, setting it on something, and getting to this brake line here. And I'm actually going to remove this bracket real quick and clean it up. So now I'm going to remove the two 22mm. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this caliper off and let it rest on this bucket over here. All right, now that the rotor's off, I'm going to disconnect, or actually first, I'm going to cut right here off. So this is the dust shield behind the rotor, and this portion of the dust shield will come into contact with the rotor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take like a flat disc with this grinder, and all I'm going to do is cut a small piece off right here just to give clearance for the bracket to come right here and then the caliper to be mounted, because the caliper would come into contact with this dust shield and push it against the new rotor, and it would scrape against the rotor. There we go. So that's all you really need to cut off, that little piece right there, and then you can start figuring out how to mount the new caliper. So before I take this brake line off, I'm actually going to start mounting the new caliper. That way, when I take that brake line off, I'll be ready with the new brake line to put on to eliminate, you know, it being exposed over here for too long. I don't want any dirt or debris to get into the new line. So I'm just going to leave this right here, kind of pushed out of the way, and I'm going to grab the new caliper bracket and the bolts and stuff and show you guys how to put that on. So I've got the bracket here, and the bracket goes on the knuckle just like this, and then this little it's like a spacer, goes here, and it allows the knuckle to fit in just like I showed you guys earlier on the knuckle over there, and it goes here on the top. And then this longer 90mm bolt goes through and attaches to this adapter here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on these bolts. I've got red Loctite here, and then I'm going to torque these down to about 75 foot-pounds. And but I'm going to torque them down when the caliper is actually on here. I don't have the rotor on yet, and I'm going to leave the rotor off. That way when this little spacer is here, it'll be like the caliper will be mounted on here, and it'll keep this in place while I torque this down. That way it's torqued down in the perfect position and it won't move, and then I can remove the caliper, put the rotor on, and then I can start worrying about the brake lines and stuff. So I'm going to put a little bit of red Loctite on here, and I'm going to put this bolt through first with the Loctite on it, and then I'll put the other one on with the Loctite. Put this one through and screw this one in by hand. Good. Alright, so after I bolt this caliper up, I'm not going to actually screw these in all the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to screw them in a little bit. I'll probably get a good 5 to 7 threads in here. And then I'll put the other one in. I'll get a good decent amount of threads on here too. Alright, so what you need to do, this is what I'm talking about, is this little spacer here has a cutout that's made for this caliper. So the caliper fits into here, and then you can torque this down to about 75 foot-pounds, and when you torque it down, it allows you to keep this in place because the caliper is mounted and it won't move at all. And then when you take the caliper back off, then you can put the rotor on, and after you put the rotor on, this will be still in place. It'll allow you to put the caliper on after you're done putting the rotor and everything together, and then you can run your lines and you're pretty much done. Alright, so I've got this set at 75 foot-pounds, and I'm just going to snug this one up first, and then I'm going to move to this side, and I'm going to snug this one, and vice versa, just kind of like you go back and forth on anything else. So that one's kind of snug now, and I'm going to put this one to 75 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to put this one at 75 foot-pounds. Okay. Now after you torque those down, you can remove the caliper and then start putting the rotor and everything else together. Alright, so now that everything is snugged up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt the line up to the caliper, run the line back to here, and I'm actually going to run the line, but I'm not going to run the line all the way up to right here. I'm going to let it hang over here, and then I'm going to clean up this area so that way no debris or anything gets inside of the caliper. No dust or anything gets inside of where the line goes into the caliper or the banjo bolt goes into the caliper. And also it doesn't allow any of the debris to get into the line where it meets the hard line here. Behind the knuckle like this. All right. So this banjo bolt with the 2 crush washers goes to the caliper. So I'm going to run it to the caliper now. And then I'm going to take this. All right, so hopefully the GoPro is getting a decent view of the back. But what I'm doing is I'm using this little line and I'm actually pushing it all the way like this against here so it's flush. And then this line is actually going to go back and around the coilover. It's going to look semi like that. And what that does is it holds it in place so that way the line on the back end of it isn't touching the coilover. It's not rubbing against anything, but at the same time it's not rubbing against anything here on the back. Before this clamp, it's not rubbing on anything from the caliper to the knuckle, and then it's running around the coilover, and it's actually not going to be coming into contact with anything else over here. Won't be interfering with anything, and no matter how much I turn the wheel, it doesn't touch anything else, and it doesn't run out of slack on the line. And you can hear right now that the rotor isn't coming into contact with anything, the dust shield is out of the way, and we're good to go with everything else. Just to make sure that there's no debris that's going to get into the new brake line, or it's going to be in the area that I'm going to be putting both together. So I'm going to clean both off, and then I'm going to I'm going to disconnect this brake line and then connect the new one. All right, I'm going to use a flare nut 10mm wrench, and I'm going to break this loose. Okay, so that's all the way to one side. We're going to go all the way back to the other side. There we go. And we're good on both sides. So I'm going to start with this one since it's loose. So all the caliper bolts are, the caliper half bolts are torqued down to 80 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to torque the line. So I'm going to torque this stainless steel braided line down to 25 foot-pounds. Doesn't feel, I thought I just heard it pop. Still at 25. I don't want to put too much pressure on this one little banjo bolt. Fuck. That's what happens when you get a cheap. Hopefully I can get that banjo bolt out of there. Okay, good. So I can pull out this banjo bolt, and luckily I have one more. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it there. Clean this up one. For the caliper, I'm gonna torque them down to 90 foot-pounds. I'm just going in between the numbers that CZP says and then the numbers that I found online. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this motive power bleeder. It's empty right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to attach it on here first, and then I'm going to fill it up, pump it up, put some pressure to these, and I'm going to open these bleeder valves with a 10 millimeter and start the process of bleeding everything. Alright, so we're looking pretty good with the pressure test so far. There's no leaks or anything, so that's pretty good. Now I'm gonna start bleeding. I'm gonna do the passenger side first, and then I'll come back and I'll show you guys the driver's side. Alright, so now I've got this bottle. Looks like this. You put a tube through it. I've got a couple of holes poked in the cap, so that way it can release the air that's coming in from the system. And what you do is you basically just put this little hose on the top here, and what this bottle does, oh, I should probably put the wrench on first. So I've got a 10 millimeter wrench, and all you do is you slide it over this, and then you can slide this onto the bleeder here. And the reason why I'm starting with the outside is to get as much of the air from the system out completely from the outside. And let's see, the pressure is still at about 13 pounds. And I'm gonna put this on here. And then all you do is you basically, I usually just let this rest on something. Like I've got a box right here that I can rest on. And then what I'll do is I'll open this bleeder valve, and that'll allow, since it's pressurized in the system, it'll push all the air and all the old fluid out of here. So I'm gonna open this up real quick. And you guys, I don't know if you guys can see that there. Coming through the hose and into the bottle. All right, now that the system is bled, I put the little caps back on the bleeder valves, and I topped off this, this reservoir. All right, so this guy literally just like really messed up right here in front of the shop. Let's see if I can get it. I'll probably, there's a motorcycle right over there. You can see the police officer over there. This guy literally just crashed his bike super bad. Hopefully he makes it. So I'm gonna do a few stops from about 40 miles an hour, 45, and I'm gonna brake until I get down to about 15. These brakes work pretty good. There's 3. Okay, there's 1. Dude, these brakes work so good. Alright guys, so I actually can't find the outro I did for this video. I'm actually editing it right here, right now. But my overall impression of these brakes is they're amazing. Like, I mean, I don't know what else I expected. They're huge compared to my other brakes, but I'm really glad that I decided to go through this process and make this like a big priority in my list of stuff. And the funny thing is now I'm thinking about doing like an ABS delete and stuff, because I mean, I do want to daily this car, but at the same time, I do want to like get to a point where it's just a track car and I don't have to like drive it on the street. But at the same time, it's like, do I want to spend money on another car right now? Or do I want to keep my car as like a daily and put more money into my car? Well, we'll see what I'm gonna do, but I do want to do like an ABS delete and like a chase pace. If I do end up doing that, I might take these brakes and then make like a daily, like another Z or something, just a daily, just a nice one that I don't have to worry about. And then I'll probably put the dual calipers that I have in the rear onto like a track car, or put them on this car, or I'll figure that out in the future. But for right now, the brakes are really great. I can't wait to install the rears. Like, I can't even express to you guys like how much of a difference this makes like for the car. Like, I don't even have the rears on yet, and the fronts already make a big difference. And if I had new tires on the front and I had the rears on, then I can't even explain like how much different the braking is compared to like the 03 to 05 brakes to these brakes that I have now. But yeah, guys, all right, I'm gonna finish this up. This is pretty much the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are what make this channel great, and I appreciate all the support that I get in the comment section. And yeah, so what should I do next? Should I start the radiator install? Should I start, you know, I've got a, oh, I didn't even tell you guys. I sold the other Z, so I'm going to be buying the dual caliper brackets for the rear, and I'm going to try to figure out a way that I can have like a custom hardlines ran from the Hydro e-brake back to the dual caliper setup. I'm probably going to have like stainless steel braided lines just from the chassis of the car to the caliper itself, but I wanted to figure out if I could do like, you know, a hardline setup instead of, you know, the traditional like stainless steel braided lines from a Hydro back. But yeah, all right guys, let me know what you guys think about these brakes in the comment section below. I love hearing from you guys, and don't forget to hit those eBay stores in the description below. I've got my Facebook and my Instagram in there too. And if you guys need any parts for 350Zs, 300ZXs, G35s, G37s, and yeah, 350Zs, then hit me up on Facebook or Instagram, or if you prefer buying on eBay, you can buy them there. And yeah. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. They are massive inside of here. There's literally like barely any space in between the caliper. I mean, there's some space. I'm trying to show you guys the gap, but it's not picking it up too well on the camera. They are massive on the car.